We all know the perfect forbidden list would be racism banned, weed off the forbidden list to limited, and of course, universal healthcare to unlimited. But the most important unlimited? Anime titties. Don't tell me that's not the perfect forbidden list. What's going on with you guys? TheCaliEffect, king of games here, and today we are back. The perfect forbidden list is in effect. In this particular video, we're not going to be doing the same as my colleagues. They tend to make a prediction list or a wish list. In this particular video, we will scope the perfect forbidden list for the March 2021 format. I think that the biggest problem in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now is that there are certain strategies or particular cards that allow you to outplay disruptions. If you address that in its already seemingly perfect format, then you have an even better Yu-Gi-Oh! Format. And of course, unlike some of those lists, we look to make as many decks as competitive as possible in this forbidden list. Instead of bringing the power down on the top tier meta, we probably should bring the power up on some of those other decks so they can compete. So of course, if you like this concept, or if you want to see more videos like this, then be sure to destroy that subscribe button, but also be sure to hit that notification bell because, well, we just too strong. You can't really see my bicep in there, but it's like massive. It's like a huge ultimate muscle, Luffy stretched out type bicep. That's how strong the community is. Also, just to make this a little bit more spicier, we will also be hosting a tournament using this forbidden list on my Discord, so be sure to join the Discord as well as follow the rules so you can become a member and you can be closer to on your way to the perfect forbidden list tournament. Without further ado, let's jump on in. Moving on to the ban portion of this list, I tend not to like banning any type of cards in these perfect forbidden lists because we can typically address those particular problems by either moving cards off the forbidden list or on the forbidden list without banning them. Unfortunately for us, True King of All Calamities is a card that has been highly speculated to be banned not only on people's prediction lists and wish lists. In order to make the perfect Yu-Gi-Oh! Format, True King of All Calamities has to go. True King of All Calamities is ultra prohibitive inside of this current Yu-Gi-Oh! Strictly because Virtual World can make it with such ease. There are times where Virtual World can even make two True King of All Calamities. And when it does, it feels one-sided and pretty much like an FTK. Virtual World even has counters to cards like Forbidden Droplets and Forbidden Chalice, cards that are normally good against True King of All Calamities through a built-in trap card called Virtual World Chi-Chi, which allows him to destroy the calamities and be able to resolve the effect of negating the opponent's card unless you send a monster and a trap for droplets, but then again, you're doing a lot. The cool thing about banning True King of All Calamities is that it actually opens up some avenues for some other decks to be approved upon. I actually do think banning True King of All Calamities is a really good idea. Now, unfortunately, I have to ban another card on this forbidden list. This card is also counterintuitive to the game that we're trying to play. We want Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks to be powerful, but we don't want them to be immune to hand traps. And unfortunately, as much as Dragon Link players may hate this, it's inevitable. Guard Dragon LP is a very, very powerful Yu-Gi-Oh! Card, and I didn't ban it because like True King of All Calamities, it was a card that was tide turning. Guard Dragon LP nowadays is more of an extender to the Dragon Link strategy than it is the combo enabler, which is really weird. I think it's really cool to know that Dragon Link can actually play Yu-Gi-Oh! Without LP, being able to consistently play through disruptions and still end on cards like Celestial Seal of Heavenly Spheres and Borreload Savage Dragon, as well as having a full-fledged hand. The Dragon Link strategy is fairly balanced. It's when you throw Guard Dragon LP into the equation and allow it to summon a ton of other monsters, you get ridiculous combos. I do think that this is the perfect time for Guard Dragon LP to be banned because again, it allows us to take other cards off the forbidden list to make other strategies competitive while also not ruining a strategy in the process. Dragon Link is still amazing even without LP. Moving on to this limited list, we have 4 cards that we have brought from Forbidden to Limited, which are slightly controversial. And by slightly controversial, I mean that these cards really help their particular strategy, and since we don't live in the Stone Ages anymore, isn't necessarily as splashable as they once were. Heavy Metal Foes Electromite off of Banned to Limited is a huge boost for Pendulum. I'm just playing. Why would I put that off the forbidden list? We don't mess with Pendulum over here. Real best decks, Solomon Great, Shaddolls, Dinos, Mech Knight, Cyber Dragon. Pendulum? Nah. We don't pendulum no more. We just Solomon Great that hold out, watch me, you. I didn't go anywhere. So, pendulum players, all that BS I was saying, we cool, right? We gonna bring Electromite actually off the list. Now, Konami actually has an extremely good reason to ban Heavy Metal Foes Electromite and keep it banned. It's way too generic. What, you don't believe me? For some reason, you don't believe me. You literally refer to an entire mechanic as a strategy. You don't see me running around saying XE deck or Link deck. Seriously, you guys refer to it as pendulum. Plus, Heavy Metal Foes Electromite is a Metal Foe monster. When was it ever even played in a Metal Foe deck? The huge problem with the entire pendulum mechanic is that it is way too generic, and the problem with Heavy Metal Foes Electromite is that it is the melting pot for every single pendulum strategy. What Heavy Metal Foes Electromite does enable is allowing players to play any of the pendulum cards into a sandbox type deck to be able to accomplish its goal, which is pendulum summon? I think I got it spot on with pendulum summoning. In this particular format, since we're players that only want to see as many competitive decks as possible, I'm pretty sure we're okay with that. It's unfortunate that every single pendulum strategy pretty much has to play Electromite and that all of the good pendulum cards get sucked into a vacuum inside of one singular deck, but it's better than not having a pendulum deck at all. Sky Striker Mobilize Engage is a card that is coming off the Forbidden list to the Limited list, and this may have players a little frightened at first until you realize that we're not in 2018 Yu-Gi-Oh, guys. You don't need a Link monster to summon other monsters from the extra deck. There's decks that can actually do without it. The biggest reason why Mobilize Engage was banned is because searching Hornet drones to make a Kagari to add the Hornet drones to make a free Link 2 basically meant that you had to play this card to get out of Master Rule 4 mechanics. But with this obviously not being a problem, Mobilize Engage can definitely come down to one. Not only does it help the Sky Striker strategies, it just so happens to help the Warrior decks. Two strategies that, while not bad, could be a lot better and more competitive. Orcust Heart Horror is another card that comes off the Forbidden list to Limited, and I know Orcust players, I love you too. You guys are awesome. The Orcust strategy, just like all the strategies we mentioned before, was a splashable strategy that you can place inside of every deck and eventually became a must-play thing. There are two problems with that. The first thing is that every single competitive hand trap right now hits Orcust. The second is that it takes up considerable extra deck space. You don't need that. While Heart Horror 1 does help decks like Phantom Knight and Orcust, those decks actually could use a boost inside of the competitive scene, so I mean, there you have it. In the last card, Rain Terror, not from its own original deck, but in the Dragon Link concept, Thunder Dragon Colossus was a very powerful card that hit the Forbidden list because of Dragon Link. Seriously, I love you Dragon Link players, but you're the reason why we're missing Thunder Dragon Colossus. You're the reason. Stop splashing this card and everything. I actually think I did a pretty good job taking care of that preemptively by banning Guard Dragon LP. I made the Thunder Dragon strategy a lot less potent inside of the Dragon Link strategy, and by limiting Thunder Dragon Colossus, you don't get to take full advantage of this card. Now granted, decks like Prank Kids could play that one copy of Thunder Dragon Colossus, and as long as they activate a Thunder monster in their hand, they contribute a monster like Prank Kids Fancy for Colossus, which is great, but the best strategy to use Thunder Dragon Colossus, because the deck can actually recycle the card, is Thunder Dragon. And just like that, we address Dragon Link, help Prank Kids, and Thunder Dragons, all with two simple card changes. You could say that we're making colossal moves right now to push the metagame forward. Yes, I'm proud of these puns. Moving on to semi-limited, the ragtag group of cards that don't need to be limited or banned, but definitely shouldn't be unlimited. To be honest, I genuinely think semi-limited is a placeholder for most cards. You just put it here and then you see if it's good and then you bring it off. And for the exception of one card, that's pretty much all we're doing with semi-limited. Bringing Skull Crobat Joker off of Forbidden to semi-limited is not a bad idea. Specific search cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Should not be a singular problem as long as it's not generic, which technically Crobat is, but not really. And as long as the card is helpful to the strategy where it's not overly dominant. Same thing with Dynamite, the True Draco Fighter, a huge boost for True Draco players, but not overbearing. And here is where we get to the harder choices, because I actually decided to semi-limit Cyber Angel Benton. Now, when looking at the Drytron deck, it's incredibly hard to actually touch a particular card without killing it. I actually do have a card that I strongly feel is going to be hit, but I'll save that for the actual prediction list. That would actually ruin too many decks. And Piss a lot of people off. I'm not in the business of doing that. We did hit Virtual World, so we do need to tone down the next best deck, and I think that Cyber Angel Benton the 2 was a nice little compromise, not completely ruining the deck, but not allowing you to have your way with it either. In the last card, you guys might spill the tea over, but I mean, it's actually logical when I say that Card of Demise is a card that could come to 3, but semi-limit rule, guys. Now, currently, Card of Demise does not help a singular competitive deck in Yu-Gi-Oh!, and I'll be able to break down why. The first thing is that you can't win off of Card of Demise. You can't inflict damage and you can't special summon. So any deck that wants to win really quick or special summons monsters, take those out. Now, you do have decks like Subterra, which typically isn't going to swing for game. It doesn't special summon enough to justify Card of Demise not being played, but then you have to realize you have to discard your entire hand. What can't you do without your hands, guys? Say it with me. Master. Play hand traps. Play hand traps. You can't play hand traps without your hands. Now, there are two sections of Unlimited. The Unlimited cards that just obviously are going to come off the Forbidden List no matter what type of list you make. Firewall Dragon, Double Iris Magician, and True King's Return. They're 100% coming off the list and don't deserve to be there. And then there's the real cards that are unlimited. First, we are going to unlimit Reasoning, a card that will help the Infernoid strategy be able to compete. I really want to see how Inferno will work in a meta with graveyard heavy reliancy, and now they just have their other spell card to be able to cycle Inferno monsters in the graveyard, making them a consistent and viable deck. Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal, can also come off the Forbidden List. This is a card that definitely needs to come now that Seer and Graph are off the list to give Burning Abyss its first glimpse at full power in 2021. Some people are like, oh, if you play enough level 6s, you can make Beatrice and use its effect. What level 6s? Seriously, limiting this card does nothing. You would only need one to do what you needed to do anyways. Dragonic Diagram also comes at 3, which probably makes you scratch your head, but you forgot. I banned True King of all calamities. It feels really good to be able to ban a unbalanced card, tone down the best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh!, as well as help decks like Dinos and True Dracos, all with 2 moves. Dragonic Diagram is an excellent addition for True Draco players. I thought about bringing out Lethal Sagam, but that card's really good too. Wouldn't want Lethal Sagams just running around banishing cards out of people's extra decks. They already have enough to pay with Desires and Extravagance, right? And last but not least is Salaman Great Circle, the best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's go! Salaman Great! I mean, no, I'm not biased at all. Salaman Great's a pretty decent deck, and I unlimited, search cards for every strategy. So yeah, Salaman Great, it's an okay deck. Circle. I mean, Murad Stalio would have been nice too, but yeah. Well, that is all that we have for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys still want to join that Yu-Gi-Oh! Discord tournament, go ahead and join the Discord. That's how you do it. And of course, follow all of those instructions. Who knows, maybe you'll be able to find that flaw in this Forbidden List, that super broken deck that takes over this particular format. Or you could potentially prove me right and make my ego so huge that it's bigger than the house. I guess this is what they call stroking your ego, right? Because we're gonna make this a lot bigger. Of course, if you want to see more CaliEffect content, then be sure to check out these videos, as I'll catch you on the next one.